Hey, welcome to Scale Wars Joe Force. I'm Cliff. This is my ramblings, kind of reaction to the Hasbro Pulse HasLab G.I. Joe Classified HISS tank. First off, let me see some positives about the HISS project so it's not just solid complaining the whole time. The moving treads. The original ones always had the static treads, and everybody was always like, why couldn't they be moving treads like the Mobat or the Mauler? Why did they never do a motorized HISS tank? It's really cool that they did the moving treads. It really adds to immersion. I really highly doubt they would have just scaled the HISS tank up and left them static, solid block. So that was a cool move. I also really like the fold down ladders on the sides of the HISS tank cockpit. That's immersive, playable kind of features to be able to get your pilot, into and out of the cockpit. And I would say even into and out of the turret. Maybe they don't climb up the back. Maybe they climb up the little ladder. It also gives you the access you would need to the removable panel they put behind the cockpit, so that anybody who was, if you wanted to show someone working on something underneath that panel, that ladder is going to come in handy. The removable panel itself is another positive. It's great that they added a removable panel. It's interesting where they put it. It's kind of like one of the few places they probably could put it. I kind of wonder why there wasn't one here. Like where the sticker for the wrench, this little area, kind of makes you wonder, like why not put one there? But they do have the troop compartment, so that's probably the reason why for that. The cockpit details they added were obviously interesting. It's good to see them add all the little kind of buttons and features that you would expect, and then like an actual seat back with seat belts and stuff, or a harness, I guess is what they're calling it, because obviously this is the retro re-release, but I mean, let's see if hopefully let's see if we can get it to kind of autofocus in there without like blinding you with the red of the HISS tank driver. But you can see how like it's kind of basic sculpt detail in there, and then I think the seat sculpt detail, those X's, I think that was for this version. I can't remember if that's on the original or not. I've got an older HISS tank that doesn't have them, but it's interesting. They added those light details in there for lighting up the cockpit. That's gonna be cool to see. Pics of inside the cockpit. Another positive is how they stuck to the classic design of the HISS tank driver for the figure. He looks fairly similar or fairly close to the 1984 version. It's pretty much like the modern release, the male version, I guess I should say. Nothing wrong with them making a female version of it. I didn't really ask for that. They're already reusing the HISS tank driver figure to make the HISS tank tactician. I'm not really happy about that either, because I mean it's just a straight reuse of the HISS tank driver figure that they made, instead of like adding like a different helmet or a different vest or whatever you call the outer chest part. If you were going to give me extra HISS tank figures, they should have been troop builders. Give us 3 of this one style of figure instead of 3 that are slightly different. Or, well, I shouldn't say slightly different, because the female figure's, a completely different figure. And then that Cobra Commander figure, I'm not really happy about getting that, because, he's got the mistake of the Mickey Mouse logo on him. I don't really want that version of Cobra Commander. They could have just done, like, a regular, whatever you call it, a battle helmet Cobra Commander. They could have just done a regular version of that, and then make a Target exclusive that has that Disney logo on it. That's how you do that. But the HISS tank driver figure that they did is pretty similar to this most recent modern style version that they did, which I think this is a reuse of an older figure, but I'm not sure. But it's even got this removable vest similar to how this one has it. So that was a positive. Another positive, but it's kind of a positive and a negative at the same time, is the opening troop compartment. It's a positive because they actually made that section open up and that you can have a troop figure go in there. But it's a negative because they only have the one seat inside there, and that one seat should have been a bench seat. Like, it really makes no sense not to do a bench seat. Or, maybe there's a reason for why, like they'll come up with. It's not a troop compartment or a troop carrying compartment or anything like that. It's really more of a back seat. But it was neat that they have like the gun rack back there for storing all the accessories. And that, the third figure that's like meant to be with the HISS tank is going to go back there. Obviously you got also the Cobra Commander figure. But I don't know, maybe he'll be riding on, maybe he'll be on the turret and the one of the other HISS drivers is, or the HISS technician or something like that is riding on the back, and then you got the HISS gunner on the inside for some reason, even though she's the gunner. I don't know. Maybe you got Cobra Commander on the inside, you got the HISS gunner and the turret, and then you got the tactician on the back. So that's kind of a half and half positive. And another half and half positive is that it's the vintage version mostly from the start. I mean, we've already got all the unlocks, so it technically is the retro, this version of it. But like the way they didn't start off with that, it should have had that version of the canopy at first, this version of the tread covers. They didn't do that. They decided to have a modern style or an updated style tread cover that covers more of the what do we call them, the bogey wheels. And then, they had the more complicated canopy. It's like you should have had those as the unlocks. The retro one should have been there from the start, just in case you only got to 8,000. You mean like if you never got enough for the first unlock? That way people got a retro HISS, not a slightly retro HISS. I don't know, that's just me. So that's kind of a half and half. It's kind of a positive, but then it's kind of not a positive. Another positive of the HISS tank, them doing it, is that it has the removable tread covers. That's pretty cool. I'm glad they did that. Okay, now we're on to the negatives. I'm showing 3 HISS tanks here that I've already got, for the 4-inch scale or 3 3/4 inch scale. They're all re-releases. The only thing vintage in this picture are the HISS tank driver and that hooded Cobra Commander. Everybody else is, post vintage. But I wanted to start off with the pricing. I remember my initial reaction was like, oh, that's not really that bad of a price. The HISS tank, 2 figures. The figures are about $25 each now, so it's like $250 for the HISS tank. The other $50 is those 2 figures. But then it's like the more I thought about it, I was like, wait, but the Razor Crest was $350. And look at how big it is. And you can tell, seeing the in-shot or the in-hand version, that gray version that they had in the video, you can tell by the size of it. And they've even shown you the measurements of it. It's substantially less than the Razor Crest. I get we're getting 4 6-inch scale figures. I understand that. There's like an inconsistency of value going on there. That was a Disney licensed product, meaning Disney had a license fee attached to that thing. This is a Hasbro license. They own the license, so there is no license fee. So that would mean there's extra money in the budget on this one, or that there's more room to add stuff, or more room for things at $300 versus something for Star Wars at $300. There's something up with the price. I would say it's at least $50 higher than what it should be. And I know that you're like, well, the Sky Striker was $230. It's like, yeah, but it came with 7 O-ring figures that they charged $20 each for. And think about it. They charged $20 for an O-ring figure. They charged $25 for a 6-inch figure. Don't you think there's something wrong with that, or that is also inconsistent value or pricing? So I mean, they're inconsistent on the pricing on this HISS tank. That right there is not good. Obviously, it's already funded past 1,600 or 16,000 backers. And I don't really think that the advice I'm going to give of we should kind of hold them hostage by pulling back to under 8,000. I don't really think anybody's going to listen to that at this point. I don't really think anybody's going to try to do that. I don't really think anybody's going to be, like a responsible consumer about this, or an intelligent one who is going to go like, hey, they're bending me over a barrel for this HISS tank. I should try to fight back just a little. No one's really going to do that. So this is going to fall on deaf ears for sure. I just thought, we should at least talk about it. You're going to have to wait a year for it anyways. They're going to accrue interest on the money that we put into this thing for probably 6 months, of that year. The other 6 months are going to be the production of it. Another thing about the pricing that sucks. At $300 each, you're not going to troop build this thing. Okay, 3 of them is $900 plus tax. They're going to probably be $350 after tax, so that's going to be well over $1,000 for 3 of them. I wanted to get 4 of them. 2 to keep as black HISS tanks, like classic looking HISS tanks. And then I wanted 2 to make red HISS tanks to have a couple Crimson Guard HISS tanks. Because this is my first HISS tank. Is a Toys R Us exclusive Crimson Guard HISS tank that came with an ASP. You mean a matching ASP. And it came with 3 or 4 of the updated, they got the removable helmet. They got like a two white guys and a black guy, I think. You know, kind of some diversity going on. He's actually holding the 25th anniversary's weapon. But, you know, like I got others, you know, holding like just random stuff. My point is I wanted to get two of each, you know, like two to have black ones and then two to paint up red. That was like my goal. And I was like, you know, $300 each, you know, it kind of seemed fair at first. And like that was my initial reaction. But it was just like the more I thought about it, I was like, man, that's going to be like $1,300, you know, like $1,400 after tax. That's a lot of money for four His Tank toys and what would be 16 figures. That's just that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot to be asking from someone who would want to troop build this thing like they did these. These were reasonable. These are like $25 each. They came with a figure. I mean, I bought two of these to have two modern style His Tanks for one, or modern style His Tank drivers for one His Tank. And then because I had a vintage His Tank driver, you know, and other vintage figures, I was going to have one for the vintage guys. And then, you know, they made this one with Rip It. You know, he's basically just another reuse of the His Tank driver, just done up in blue, mostly. And then, you know, it's the same His Tank. It's just they did the treads on this a little, you know, a little nicer. I like this dirty look to it. And it's interesting seeing it in Cobra Blue, and with a different number, I guess. And, you know, I already liked the red one for the Crimson Guard. I forgot to even show that I have this His Tank from 2002, the Valor vs. Venom one with the weird pop-up feature. It's got a real snake motif going on in this, and this is the first time I ever modified a vehicle. All right, just like how this classified His Tank sucks for only having one seat, this only had two seats, so I ended up taking a soldering iron and kind of carving into it, which I kind of wish I could show inside there a little bit more. There we go. So instead of just two guys, it seats like four. I mean, you could probably stick like a dude laying down in there like a medic, but you know, it's Cobra. They don't really worry about such things. You know, you think the guy was exposed on the old His Tank? Man, look at that. You know, just hit him from the sides. Then again, you are raised up on something, so you'd have to have an elevated position or, you know, whatever. Some kind of justification for this thing, right? So that pretty much does it for pricing, you know, because it's really not much that it's overpriced, so I don't really want to, like, complain about that too much. Okay, the next negative to talk about would be the tiers or unlocks. Those are inconsistent as well as, you know, with the pricing. Think about this. For the first 8,000 backers, you get a His Tank, like a full His Tank, and two figures. You know, basically two His drivers. And one of those figures, they're going to let you pick the color scheme of. So there's kind of like a variant thing to him. I don't know why one of the color options isn't the regular His driver color. That really kind of boggles the mind. It's like, what if I want the option of just having two of the same figure? A real troop builder. But that's for 8,000 backers, right? And I think 8,000 backers is 1.6 million. I'm not sure about that. 2,000 backers is 600,000. So I'm sorry, that'd be 2.4 million for the 8,000. For the first 8,000 backers, again, two figures, the whole His Tank, or a whole His Tank. For the next 2,000 backers, the first unlock were two side-mounted missile pods that attach to the side of the His Tank. So if you can imagine, well, I mean, obviously I'm going to show images of it, but they attach somewhere in here, so there's going to be some kind of attachment point already on the His Tank for these things to kind of come off of. And they extend out, they can rotate, and then I'm not sure if the individual missiles or each individual parts, you know, like removable, like they each can fly off, you know, if you want them to. Who knows? They might even have like little miniature rocket launcher or missile launchers and little spring-loaded missile launchers. Wouldn't that be something? For 2,000 backers, $600,000 extra for the project, you would expect more than just two little side-mounted missile launchers. That seemed like another red flag, another like slap in the face almost, or another inconsistency that I'm like, yeah, I'm really not wanting to back four of these now. That's the first unlock? That's terrible. That's not a good sign. Well, the second unlock, I'm thinking like, well, maybe this will be like at least another figure or something. It'll be something more substantial than just two missile launchers, right? Nope. The second unlock are two retro-styled tread covers and then the clear canopy, the retro-style canopy. That's pretty inconsistent. That's 2,000 extra backers. We're already 4,000 extra backers in. Half of the initial backing of 8,000 that got us a whole HISS tank in 2 figures, and we only have 2 side-mounted missile launchers and 2 tread covers and a canopy. So we got like 5 extra parts for 4,000 extra backers, 1.2 million extra dollars to Hasbro that they're going to accrue interest on for a certain amount of time before they go into production. Think about that. The next 2,000 backers, what do we get? We finally get another figure. We get the female HISS tank driver, or a HISS tank gunner is what they're calling her. She's done up just like the same color scheme as a regular HISS tank driver, but it's a female Cobra Trooper finally, right? I think it's the first ever other than Baroness. And then she's got, I think, the same gun, the same accessories kind of as the HISS tank driver, but she also has a shovel and I think a hammer, like a maul or something. She comes with tools, And then the other thing you got with it was a chin-mounted kind of chain gun, dual chain gun thing on the bottom, and you got like extra guns that plug into the top. For 2,000 extra backers, another figure kind of makes sense, right? Like that's enough. But you got a little bit of the little extra parts. I didn't really ask for the female HISS tank driver or a female Cobra Trooper in this way. I don't think she should have been if she was going to be a female figure, she should have been a female Cobra Trooper, not a female HISS tank driver. But I would think that the first female figure that they should do, or female Cobra Trooper troop builder figure that they should do, if they're going to do it for the HISS tank, should have been like just a standard, like Cobra Trooper kind of female, like we've seen in the cartoon. For the last 2,000 backers, so we're at another 8,000 backers plus the original 8,000 backers. We're at 16,000 altogether. You get a Cobra Commander battle helmet Cobra Commander, but it's based off of that that screw up they did where it kind of looked like the paint on the Cobra logo wasn't done just right, where it kind of looked like a Mickey Mouse logo. Everybody's heard of Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander. That's not a figure that I think should be in this HasLab project. That's something that should be a Target exclusive or some big bad toy store kind of exclusive. That's who should handle something like that. If you did want to troop build this HISS tank, you would end up having multiples of that same figure, of a unique individual figure. It makes no sense to do that. This is a HasLab project that should be made to troop build, all right, not to encourage people selling off parts of this thing, like buying this thing with the idea of an investment, of selling something. You shouldn't be doing that. That's ruining the hobby for the regular people who don't do that kind of stuff. You're going to just shrink your customer base. You're just going to continually shrink it down doing moves like that. It's really annoying to people like me who were trying to collect a toy line from you, but you're going to draw it out over time and appeal to these people who keep them in the package, and these people who, to them, the way the package looks matters. To me, it would only matter in the sense that you should try to make it look retro. You should try to make it look like the A-Raw packaging. That's what it should look like. Why not? Why wouldn't you do that? Makes no sense not to. That sold back then, it would sell now. So the inconsistency of the tiers, the unlocks, is just another reason not to back this thing, or to kind of like hold them hostage on it to like come back down under 8,000, which I understand. That's not going to happen because so many people are so addicted to toy collecting so badly that they can't say no to certain things like this. They have to have it. And there's this weird, they're calling it like fear of missing out, but like, I'm not gonna sit there and use their terms or the fucking weird meme words and stuff. But there is kind of like this inclusion thing going on, and like these people who they ride the wave of internet trends. Every time this new figure is dropping as Hasbro likes to do, these pre-orders and stuff, these people are going to post about it, they're going to talk about it, they're going to try to discuss about it, like, hey, what do you guys think? And they're basically just helping Hasbro sell products. They're shills. That's what a shill does. You're constantly telling us about Hasbro products. These people they're chasing the trends and stuff so badly that like they're not going to be able to back out of this. They're not going to be able to think objectively enough to have tactics against Hasbro, like consumer tactics that they should have. They're not going to be smart consumers about it. Hasbro is doing you wrong, and it can be proven to you or shown to you. The ones that make excuses for why they just have to have this thing, or why you should buy this thing, why you should think it's a great thing to get it, or why it's a great value. But these people, they're so addicted to following the trends that, yeah, they're not going to be able to back out of this at all. You know, they're going to be telling you, oh, you should just be happy with it. Or if you don't get it now, they'll never make it and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you don't realize they have the physical mock-up already. They have the digital files for the sculpt, for the figures, and for the vehicle itself. They could make this at any time now. They already have what they need to do it. It's just for their executives or whoever, for the people at the top in Hasbro, for the shareholders or whoever, for them to say yes on these certain things. That's why they want to do it this way. Because someone has gotten real greedy at Hasbro. They figured out they could do this. They started looking at eBay prices. They started testing the waters, like, how high can we go? They started the whole thing, like the idea with Star Wars of the Black Series, the whole premium thing they keep putting on all these toys and stuff. They put premium on this. This. You mean? That was premium. That the figure is premium. You mean? Like, they put premium on these classified figures. You mean? I could sit there and pour over like versions of, you know, like the ones I have and stuff, and show you how, like, no, it's not premium. You know, paint app, miss errors and all that kind of stuff, flashing, whatnot. It's not premium. When they say premium, they're using the wrong definition, or they're trying to make it look like they're saying premium is in a superior quality, which denotes a higher price, right? You mean you got to pay more for a higher quality. That's not the premium that Hasbro has. Premium that Hasbro has is an added price to something that you're paying a premium for these things. That's the premium. And it sucks. It's all because of Disney too. That's when it started. You know, one licensor is basically ruining the hobby of collecting through Hasbro. And it sucks. A lot of people will say, what a time to be alive, because look at all this stuff. Look at all this product they're putting out. Or they're really listening to us and all this kind of bullshit. No, it's not. It's not a great time to be alive in that sort of sense. But on these tiers and unlocks, I've shown you how they're inconsistent. For the first 8,000 backers, you got 2 figures, a whole HISS tank. For the next 8,000 backers, you got 2 figures and about 6 parts of a HISS tank. So there's nearly a whole HISS tank's worth of value missing from that second half, that other 8,000 backers. And I get that the individual backer is not doing that. They're not like, well, you know, I did that, so I'm demanding an equal value. I get that some people will argue something like that. Like you have no entitlement in here, or blah blah. They'll have some kind of shit to say about it. But it's like, no. That first 8,000 backers, we got the 2 figures in a HISS tank. The second 8,000 backing should match that. I mean, we got 2 figures, yes, but there's nearly a whole HISS tank's worth of product or value or unlock that we're not getting. They're already going to accrue interest on our money, and they're going to do that to us, short us on it. That's fucking stupid. Why are we putting up with this? Oh, because this is the only way we'll get the HISS tank? What a bitch-ass thing to say. You mean, like, that's something a pussy says. That's something a quitter says. You mean, that's someone who feels like they have no recourse. That's something that they would say. If you're an adult, you can vote with your dollar by essentially letting them know, hey, I'm going to back out of this until like the last week, and what I'm wanting to see from you is X, blank, whatever it is that you're wanting to see. And if enough people were telling them like, hey, I'm backing out of this because I don't like the unlocks, there's inconsistencies with this, I'm not seeing the value of it. If they got enough feedback like that, they would listen to that. We would have them over a barrel at that point, because they'd be like, holy shit, we went from 16,000 backers all the way down to like 7,500 backers in like a day or something, and however long it would take to get, the word spread around to do something like that. I mean, we only have like 25 days or something like that. I can't remember. But that's what needs to happen. So I wanted to show, like, what should the tiers and unlocks be? Like, what would I have been happy with? For one thing, I know it doesn't. I know you're like, well, what does that have to do with the HISS tank? It doesn't have anything to do. Nothing, right? It's just something from Cobra. And if you think, for 2,000 extra backers, the armor, the HISS tank, or the snake armor. You mean, why not? Just scale this up. You mean, scale that up to go around a classified figure. I mean, of course I would love it to be like more detailed and stuff, but dude, that would have been an awesome unlock. Freaking snake armor. Alright, another cool unlock would have been something like a trouble bubble. You can see, like, it's it's comparable in size. It's really not that big. I mean, and how they did an extra canopy, extra tank treads, all this extra stuff that attaches to this. If they'd have just done this, the retro his tank from the start, and then those add-on parts, that's roughly enough parts to make. Like, think about the gun that goes under the chin, right? That's this gun. All right, the tread covers, right? That's essentially like the body of it, like the little arm here and this little wraparound piece here. The extra canopy, right? The guns on top, right? The only thing that would be missing would be this kind of part, or like the wires. And I'm showing it with the Stratoviper, but you get what I'm saying. Like, there was enough. That was the extra parts that they made for the his tank are roughly enough parts to make a trouble bubble, right? And that's just what, 2 or 3? That's two. That's 2 unlocks by themselves are parts, and then 1 unlock is a figure with parts, and then 1 unlock is just a figure by itself. I'm sure they'll make his packaging all fancy for those weirdos who keep him in the box, and who, like, again, the weirdos who they're only into these things as an investment. They want to resell these things. So basically, Hasbro's encouraging scalping. They're encouraging people to rip off other people for money for these toys. Sell it at a higher price to some dupe. You know what I mean? Just like we did you. Pass it along, you know? But yeah, you know, you see how the unlocks could have been something more substantial. But imagine if this was one of the unlocks, and then like a trailer for it that this thing has on it, that this could land on. And then that trailer could have like a double function of, if this wasn't landed on it, you could have like 2 guys laying on it, like a medic kind of situation. Because you already have an interior to the back of this. Kind of makes sense. Maybe they'll make Scalpel at one point. Who knows? Or Dr. Venom. I mean, they're going to do Dr. Mindbender. Maybe he would be needing that thing to experiment on people. But another unlock, I don't know why I was talking while I was showing it, but another unlock that would have been cool or cooler would have been something like a Ferret ATV. Why not? You mean? They could have done this. They could have easily done that. You know, these are roughly, damn, the auto lighting or whatever. But these are roughly the same size, you know, the amount of materials. You know, this is slightly more, especially because it's got rubber tires. But you get what I'm saying. They could have done this. Another idea for an unlock is obviously the ASP or the SMS missile launcher rack. But think about it. If they'd done this ASP in a classified scale, you know, if they'd done it in classified scale, they could have easily scaled it down for the 4-inch and O-ring figures, where they could have fixed the issue with the seat in there, like not letting them sit down low enough for it to look proper. But then they could have also made it cooler by making this whole piece detach, where you could fly this thing around like a little mini snow speeder looking thing, because it almost looks like it could fly, right? I mean, you can use your imagination. Or heck, if they're doing like swap out parts, what if you can swap out the cockpit for this, so that the cockpit has these kind of guns and then like a wire, or whatever you call it, a roll cage opening. I know that, you know, you'd be like, well, you could get shot that way. It's like, but you get what I'm saying. You could swap them out because they have a similar kind of design aesthetic, and then it kind of gives this his tank, you know, more of a snakehead kind of look. Just interesting ideas like that. You get what I'm saying. They had options. They had potential to really give you your money's worth, and they didn't do that. They always cut corners. They always screw the customer over in favor of themselves, right? And if you're thinking, well, that's what a business does, you are encouraging the wrong business kind of ethics. You're basically telling them, yes, screw me over. I love being screwed over. Shut up and take my money. You're an idiot if you're doing that. You're encouraging the worst kind of business practices out there. I mean, you're just encouraging their greed. And you don't want them to be greedy. I mean, you want them to actually give a shit what you think, and, you know, they're catering to you, the customer, the person who actually opens the product and plays with it. You know what I mean? Not the person who just looks at it in a fucking display all the time, or looks at it in a box all the time, or looks at them on the card. Those people are weirdos. I mean, I'm sorry, they're weirdos. I'm an action figure collector. I like action figures. I like opening them up and posing them and playing them and taking pictures of them, sure. If I'm going to buy a product, I'm going to handle the product because that's why you're buying it, right? If you're buying it to hold on to it just to sell it later, you're a scalper. Don't try to lie to yourself and tell yourself that you're flipping or that you're an investor. You're not. House flipping, like where you're getting the word flipping from, a house flipper imparts value onto the house. They buy a house for, like, say $100,000 and it's run down, but it's in a good neighborhood. Then they impart value on it. They sink money into it to build the house back up to livable status, right? To make it worth buying, for someone else to go, hey, I want that house, and then to make a profit off of. To not only make back the money that you sank into the house, but to also make some kind of extra money, just profit. The closest thing to action figure flipping would be someone who customizes an action figure and makes it look like some interesting character or whatever. They paint it up super nice for you or something like that. They add epoxy and then paint the epoxy in a custom figure. Something like Sithfire Creations does. That's action figure flipping. That would be flipping a product. You're imparting some kind of value onto it and making it better. If you're just holding on to the product and then eventually selling it later because there's scarcity at some point because you had the product and it was held in some storage or whatever, and you had so many of them, you're a scalper. That's what you are. If you don't like being called a scalper, I'm sorry. If you don't like being called a shill, I'm sorry. You fit the definition. That's what you are. The only way we're going to affect change with these kinds of people is to stop encouraging them. Okay, this is kind of hard to fit in a frame. And I removed one of the engines off of the Razor Crest because I wanted to be able to show some stuff in there with it. And obviously this is a 3 3/4 inch, 4-inch scale HISS next to it, right? Like, I'm not saying that's the classified HISS tank scale next to this thing. I was just keeping this in frame because this is what we're talking about. But here's 2 classified figures, as you can tell, next to it, so that you can get kind of an overall judgment of the size. And then like there's still some cut off here. What is that? About that much cut off. It's mainly just that kind of a tail taper. And then I wanted to show how, like on each of these engines they have removable panels, and then there's like an under layer that's got like a little bit of the black wash on it. I don't think this has any paint on it at all. And then most of the outside has the black wash kind of treatment and that silver. But it's got multiple removable panels, like where's the other one right there? Right. So you see how complex this thing is, right? And think about this, the number of molds needed to make this thing, right? And this thing was overpriced mainly just because of the Disney licensing fee. I don't know why I'm showing just that engine, but like this. But you have to admit it's a complex thing. It's heavy too. This thing is pretty heavy. That's why I'm not showing. Well, one of the reasons why I'm not showing it with the landing gear plugged in is I really don't like leaving it on the landing gear for too long. That's probably why they included this stand, right? Which I didn't actually want this thing, but now that I have it in hand, it's kind of like, well, yeah, it's so heavy, and you don't want to leave it on the landing gear. Kind of need it, but it sucks because they designed the thing in such a way that it needs that thing. Anyways, but I was wanting to show. Let me kind of rearrange what I'm doing. Oops. Okay, repositioning. I wanted to show how, like, okay, that thing was $350. It came with a Mandalorian figure, a Baby Yoda, and then a Jawa. And then, like, these are just the landing gear, but you can imagine, like, the unlocks for the classified scale HISS tank. They're parts, right? And then think about all the removable panels and stuff on this thing. All the parts the individual parts to this. And it's only $50 more, right? The level of paint detail on this thing versus the HISS tank. Because they're going to do like this, where it's going to be in the plastic will be the color, not so much paint. I wanted to show something with the cockpit, so I'm going to kind of move the camera over. Okay. So if I take that, there's a Din Djarin figure sitting in there, but I wanted to show how you can see how the cockpit, if those seats weren't in there, the cockpit to the Razor Crest is roughly comparable to the HisTank cockpit, right? So imagine. So then you got another, there's a space in here behind the, oops. So you got like a little bit of space there. Hopefully it'll just lean there and look at you. But then coming back, sorry about all like the shakiness and all this. I really want to kind of emphasize this. So, you got the opening. That open section. Let me see if I can. About as high as I'm going to get it right now. And get closer. Okay. So, HisTank has a cockpit, right? And then it's got the kind of troop compartment section back here underneath the turret, right? Well, it's not that big though, is it? And again, this thing's only $50 more. They could have made that thing, they could have made it $350. I'm not saying it should have been this big, right? I'm not saying the HisTank, the size of it would have been huge. But you can see I can keep fitting figures in there, right? And they're just about standing up. So you can imagine if they were all sitting down. So this is illustrating how much bigger this is. And it's a Disney licensed product. People are probably already like yelling at the screen, oh, inflation, or supply chain or some kind of excuse. And it's like, no, dude, you're getting shafted. That's what it is. But, and then think about how like, these all have, oh, not all of them, but a lot of these things have paint detail. There's cloth here. Like there's removable panels there, like somewhere. I think it's that. But I'd have to pull it off from that side. I'm going to say, it's like, where do you get your finger in to pull these things off? But you get what I'm saying. Like there's all the stuff that comes off. Like a panel here, panels here, and they all have something underneath. Like for like details or whatever. In here, they got this all painted up. It's got like black wash in here to like make it look weathered. There's like detail inside there. But okay, let me lower this back. Yeah, I just wanted to show that kind of for size comparison so that you're really thinking about this, that what they did for the HisTank, for $300 versus $350, $50 more. All right, and then this came with at least, I would say, 2 figures. That Grogu and that Jawa, you combine them together, you got like an extra figure, and then you got Mando, right? But yeah, I wanted to show that. That's like a really good illustration for me. Like I think that if you're thinking about this objectively, if you're actually really thinking about it, not just like, I want the toy, I don't care how much it costs, or like, I don't care about any of the other stuff. If you're really thinking about things, that puts some perspective on it that you're not really seeing from anybody else. Cover that up. Another negative about the HasLab project for the classified HisTank is how they talk to us through the Cobra Commander blurbs or whatever that they put up. That right there, like a lot of people were trying to make excuses for them, like, oh, that's just tongue-in-cheek, or oh, that's just jokes, it's all in good fun, blah, blah, blah. They're just having fun with it, all those kind of stupid-ass excuses for letting a toy company talk straight-up shit to you, to talk to you like you're an idiot, like you're just some man baby, some man child. You're going to spend whatever like you're going to spend whatever we tell you to spend on it. You're going to buy whatever we put out. You're going to buy everything. You're going to love it. I'm just really tired of how Hasbro's been talking to us. That's not the first time they've done something like that. It's not, the way they call us fans. Fans first. Hasbro Pulse, fans first. You're a customer. You're not a fan. They're talking to you like you're a man baby. You're just a fucking man child who you're not smart enough. They don't care about you. They don't give a shit about you. They're just trying to get your money. And I get that the point of a business is to make money. having ethics or morals are more important. So you're supposed to do it and still be a good person at the end of the day. You're supposed to be able to not have any negative karma for that shit. It's like, and I really hate how they did that. That's so disrespectful. They're trying to act like, oh yeah, that's lore-friendly entertainment right there. Like, well, for one thing, it would have been Destro telling you all, like, trying to sell Cobra Commander the Hiss tank. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he should have been doing. And that wouldn't have been disrespectful to the customer. They actually said the words, a fool and his money are soon parted. A measly $300. Oh yeah, Hasbro, a measly $300 during all this inflation and a pandemic and supply chain breakdowns and, recession and shit. A measly $300. They just act like they're doing you such a favor with that Hiss tank. They even said stuff like everybody's been clamoring about this Hiss tank, or like making it seem like, oh, this is the one they wouldn't shut up about, so let's make the Hiss tank. The Hiss tank also being so ubiquitous for like Cobra or like for G.I. Joe, it shouldn't be a HasLab project. The first HasLab project was the sail barge because they never made the sail barge. They basically, by making this classified Hiss tank a HasLab Hasbro Pulse project, they admitted that, yeah, we'll never make this vehicle for you for classified scale at retail. This is the only way we'll do it. If you haven't been feeling that they're giving up on action figures for the last, 10 years, that's what Hasbro is doing. I mean, like, can't you tell they've been phasing out play sets and creatures, like creature mounts. And, we still haven't gotten blurgs. I thought that was going to be an unlocked tier for the Razor Crest, was like a blurg or two. Nope. They've got the Quill figure. They're holding out on them blurgs for some reason. Because I guess they want to charge, the deluxe figure price or whatever, some of that bullshit like they did with that Boba Fett. I mean, they can't even do a Boba Fett for vintage collection scale from a Book of Boba Fett for under $20. That's ridiculous. They did that intentionally because he's Boba Fett. He's popular. Everybody's going to want that figure. Let's make him like $25. And they're going to sit there and talk shit to you, while they're doing it. They're going to have Cobra Commander talking shit to you. It's unbelievable, man. It makes me miss whoever was working there before these people got in. Man, I miss them. I mean, because these people are just straight up assholes to the customer. They don't give a shit about us. They don't care about this hobby lasting for a long enough forever or whatever. They don't care about the hobby lasting at all. They don't care if it goes away. They're not one of us. They're not going through this shit with us. They're getting free shit from Hasbro. If you've noticed that Hasbro will send these free box, the boxes of free shit, like a G.I. Joe box or whatever, they'll send it out to all the shills. But the people I've spent tens of thousands of dollars with them over the last 10 years. You would think they would kind of know my name by now and want to send me stuff. I'm a long-term customer. The shills don't necessarily buy everything. They just happen to have popularity and they happen to be talking about your product. So you're like, ooh, they mentioned us. Let's send them something. I mean, Hasbro's so dumb. They sent something to Analog Toys, and he's not a Hasbro shill. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't send one to Retro Blasting. Oh, they talk about Hasbro all the time. They love us. They're, some of the few people who are critical of you. It just kind of boggles your mind, how inconsistent they are with things lately. The people they have working on G.I. Joe, Star Wars, and Marvel figures are terrible. It's like they are not qualified, or they're qualified for ripping people off, or making you spend more for something than you should have to. Yeah, they're great at that. They're great at the money side of things, I'm sure, A fool and his money is soon parted kind of bullshit. They can write that kind of a snarky comment to the customer. They can sit there and give you the automated response on Hasbro Pulse or Hasbro kind of pages or anything like that if you have any kind of feedback or questions. So yeah, I really didn't like that. That's just yet another reason not to back this thing. If you're smart, you wouldn't back this thing because you wouldn't encourage someone who talks to you like that. And I'm talking to the real adults, the people who know that that's them shit-talking you, not the people who are going to sit there and make excuses for Hasbro. I mean, they're lost. You can't talk to those kind of people because they are so far up Hasbro's ass, they can't hear anything you're saying. Man, they want a pat on the head from Hasbro. They want that free box of toys from Hasbro. I admit, I want a free box of toys from Hasbro too. I'm not saying I don't. But they want that access to Hasbro. They might want to work at Hasbro or something. They they have to get that inclusion of, I've got the newest thing. It's the trend kind of thing. They're all trying to be influencers. And if you notice, just about all of them all sound exactly the same. They all just gush over, like, if we're talking about Hasbro, gush over Hasbro products. They're only ever going to tell you positive things about the Hasbro products. They're not going to sit there and actually be critical of them. Why listen to them? Why give them any time of day? If you're actually going to say you're reviewing a product, you need to be critical of it. You mean there needs to be some kind of actual rating system you're adhering to that you're being like impartial to. Well, that does it for this rambling, kind of reaction to this Hasbro HISS-Tank and like my thoughts on it. I know that most people won't, like they're not going to back out of this, or they're not going to try to like be tactical about how they're spending their money on this thing, or they're just going to let Hasbro bend them over the barrel and they're just going to take it. But any of you who actually would do this, or like actually think like this, I appreciate you guys watching. We kind of need to really speak out more against this stuff that like Hasbro is doing. If we're going to continue to be like Hasbro collectors as like sane adults, we've got to get them to change this behavior. Otherwise, they're just going to keep being encouraged by these people. We've got to voice our opinion on these kinds of people. Like, they don't really represent the whole community. That they represent a niche of the community that's like a negative niche, like something that shouldn't be encouraged. And then, you'd have to like, I get that you love money, Hasbro. We totally understand. You love money. But you could make the same amount of money just over a slower amount of time selling more products to people like, who are sane adult collectors, and probably even kids at that point, if you made them reasonably priced enough and were actually selling them in the stores, not just all this pre-order bullshit. Yeah, I'd like to, in conclusion, say I'm not happy with the HasLab HISS-Tank project. I'm probably not going to back it. I'm going to wait until like that last week. And if I do back it, I'll only get one now. I say I'll probably buy it after that, at that last week. But the reason why I say probably, I've already got the free files, the 3D print one. I know I can do that a whole lot cheaper. I don't necessarily need a HISS-Tank driver. I'll just put Cobra Troopers in there. Or, like a named character like Major Blood or something. I don't know. Maybe Cobra Commander wants to drive. You never know. I will more than likely not back this thing. I highly suggest you don't either. Just to kind of teach Hasbro a lesson on it. They need to learn from this kind of stuff. They keep doing it. They did this with the Hasbro or the HasLab Rancor. They didn't learn. They got lucky though that the HISS-Tank is something that people really want. They apparently want it more than they wanted that Rancor, right? Or than the Star Wars Black Series collectors wanted the Rancor. Again, all I could say is that I really hope that you listen to this. We still got some time left to be tactical about this. We could get some things done. Like mainly adding, an unlock for towable weapons. Mainly the ASP. I would also say the SMS missile thing is cool. My idea about the trailer, kind of thing, or kind of carrier or whatever for a trouble bubble. Or hell, it could be the same kind of trailer could probably also hold something like the Ferret. Or, it'd be nice to get some snake armor out of it. Who knows? And then I would also say that I really want to get them to change the thing with the Cobra Commander figure. I don't want that Mickey Mouse version. If they're going to be giving me options on that Tactician figures, give us options on the Cobra Commander figure also, to where you don't have to have that. And maybe instead of the light blue version of this, you can get them in that dark blue if you wanted. It would be really nice to be able to affect positive change for the collectors, for the customers, not for Hasbro, for a change. If you sat through all that, I appreciate it. Thank you for hearing me out. If you're going to try to like argue with me in the comments, you better be prepared. This is Cliff from Scale Wars, Joe Force, the HasLab, Hasbro Pulse, classified scaled HISS-Tank reaction rambling rant semi review, because I don't actually have one in hand, but I'll see you guys later.